Faith Forged in Fire, where we dive headfirst into the unique challenges and triumphs that comes with being a firefighter, all while exploring what it means to live out a biblical worldview. Join us as we find hope, perseverance, and faith in the midst of the heat and chaos. Welcome to the podcast. All right.
That red flannel coffee is delicious.
That it is.
All right. Well, hey, guys, welcome to the podcast. As you can see, we're missing our esteemed chief again. He had some family matters that came up last minute, and he needed to take care of those, and that's okay. The unfortunate thing is that also means he's missing for the month because this is not a show up late. This is a I'm not going to make it. Yeah. And because we record everything in one shot, unfortunately, you don't get him this month. But that's okay. He'll be back, Lord willing, next month.
You get Deputy Dog.
You get Deputy Dog over there.
The next best thing.
The next best thing.
I feel like every time there's an empty seat, we find something new to put in there.
We do. That's true. We do.
That's half the fun of it. So, well, today we want to talk about something that is a little heavy. This has been a rough week, I would say, in the fire service, as in it just has been a rough week in the fire service. But here locally, last week, we lost a firefighter, and the funeral was yesterday. And, well, I say yesterday. We're recording on Wednesday, so it was yesterday as of the recording, not when you're listening to this. So it was Tuesday. And Chief and I went over, and we were a part of that funeral. I did not know him. Chief did. Actually, your sister was there because he also works for the same company your sister works for.
Yep, she knew him real well.
So it just hits close to home. It was a firefighter and paramedic from our area, and he was a supervisor for one of the ambulance services. So he's one of those guys that was just well known, and it was just a heavy day. It's always a certain amount of pride for me to be a part of that, as in just it's a reminder that this is bigger than us. Mm-hmm. The fire service is bigger than us. And it's always interesting to me the things that hit me during the funerals. One that always gets me is last call. Oddly, the bell. The bell is often what gets people. That not so much as last call, and because especially as a volunteer paid on call, the pager goes off. That's how we respond, and then that just always causes you to think, when is the last time that pager is going to go off and I'm going to walk out the door and go to a call? And there's just something about that always gets me. And then there were several. There was well over 100 apparatus there, is from what I was told. I mean, it was just, there was fire departments, ambulances from all over the place. And I don't know how many first responders were there, but there was probably, there was a good, well, if there was 100 apparatus, there was 200-300 firefighters there. It was unbelievable. We dwarfed the friends and family that was there, which was, I hope, encouraging to them. I hope it didn't take away from honoring his life. I don't know that I heard from, I actually talked to his grandma, and she was very grateful that we all showed up. But that was, I guess, another one of those times that got me is as we left, every single firefighter saluted the casket and walked out. And I just wasn't really thinking about what was next. So I go and I salute the casket, and that causes everybody to spread out. So once you're walking out, you're walking by yourself. The funeral was in a school. And so you're walking out, and I've done this before. It just didn't click. Walking out, and I see, as I walk out the double doors, I see somebody I know. He's standing there, and they're lined up. And I didn't think anything of it. I don't know why it didn't click, because I've known this, but because of the way we did it, there was only like 5 people behind me. I was one of the very last people to leave. So we're leaving. I walk through the double doors of the gym into the hallway, and I make a left. And of course, I'm walking by myself now, not with anybody I came with, because we're all spread out. And I look down the hall, and all I see is dark blue, right? Firefighters just lined up on both sides of the wall. And then it clicked, right? That's what we do. You line up and you salute as the casket and the family walks out. So I start walking down this long hallway. I mean, firefighter, it's just, as long as you walk, it's firefighter. Of course, you can hear a pin drop. Nobody's talking. Everybody's at attention. And I'm walking to get to the end of the line where I can take my place. I walk all the way down the hallway, and at that point, I'm starting to have to fight it a little bit, because the realization of, you get lost in running these calls, and especially a paid-on call department, where sometimes there's 2 or 3 of you that show up, and it's easy to think, man, I'm the only one, and then you get in a situation like that, and it's a reminder of how immense the firefighter, the first responder family is, how strong the brotherhood is. And just that feeling of, man, I am just a needle in a haystack. It was an incredible, unless you're a part of it, you just can't quite feel that, right? So I'm fighting it at that point. And I get into the atrium and I turn the corner, and as you turn the corner, it's a long sidewalk out to the parking lot. And as I turn the corner, it's the same thing. It's just shoulder to shoulder. And I was a little embarrassed, because they're all looking at me, and I'm trying to fight back tears. Because just that realization of what we get to be a part of.
Yeah.
And the fact that so many turned out to honor a life. So it was a tough day, but that just was compounded with what happened Sunday in Idaho, that everybody's feeling, right? Yeah. And so I know some of you pay attention to our Facebook page or our Instagram. If you don't, you should go there, subscribe, or follow us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram. But what I've started doing is posting our lineup. Here's what's coming out for the month. Well, I lied because you guys.
I'm sorry. Do you need to repent right now?
Yeah, because I need to repent. Follow Jake's example, because I posted that, and then the things happened on Sunday in Idaho, and we said, we all were, I think nobody was saying it, but we were all probably feeling the same thing. Like, boy, I think we need to throw out what we were going to talk about, and we're not throwing it out. We're just pushing everything back. So you're going to get everything that you saw. We'll have to, what would have been the last episode of July will be the first episode of August.
Right. Yeah. Real quick, I want to, you're talking about the lineup of firefighters and, everyone in their dress blues and, their class A's, whatever you want to call it. That's one of the unique things about being a firefighter, or even a police officer, because it's very similar with them. It doesn't matter which department you come from. It doesn't matter which state you come from. You're just part of this huge collective of brothers and sisters in the same line of duty, and to see so many different departments or different agencies show up for somebody, whether they knew him or not, it didn't matter. Right. It was a fallen brother. It didn't matter, right? And I think that's something that is so genuinely unique to fire and police, or just I would say
first
public
response,
safety. Yeah,
right.
First response.
Yeah.
So that's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's when it comes to the fire service, a lot of times you have departments that don't get along with each other, or you have the volunteer versus, and we've talked about it here on the show, the volunteer versus the paid people, and there's all these little nuances and things there that we have a little buzzing.
They can't hear it. It's in our
buzzing
headphones.
coming through our headphones.
I hope you can't hear that.
Yeah,
that is so distracting.
But to go back to what I was. I don't know.
Sorry.
It's okay.
Sorry, Steve. Yeah, that is.
But it's okay. But the thing is, for all the nuances of the fire service, those are moments where we're all on the same team and we're all one brotherhood. Doesn't matter. We put all that stuff to the side, and you see the true family atmosphere of the fire service / police, public safety. Yeah, that one's right. That is
Sorry,
really quite
yeah,
a buzz.
It's increased in intensity.
Yeah.
So, I don't want to say if I was, fortunate or unfortunate to be part of a, doing honor guard and seeing. It was actually a member of the military, somebody that I actually knew, and being part of that collective was, it's very moving. It's very moving, and it's very cool to see, like you said, even rival departments come together and just put things aside of because none of that stuff really matters, No.
No.
And for this, they Rich made this comment too, by the way, and he said sometimes I wonder if we want to honor the fallen, and we want to be an encouragement to the family, and hopefully that's what it is. Hopefully it doesn't make it overwhelm and become more about the fire service than the family. I would hope that's not the case. What they did for us is they put us all in a room. It was hot out in the parking lot, like hot as could be. And so they said, hey, we've got a room for you. So they put us in a side room where it was air conditioning. And eventually it didn't matter because there were so many people you couldn't move anymore. Yeah. It was just hot. And all the friends and family were already seated before they had us process in.
Yeah.
And just watching the look on the faces, because the line didn't stop, right? They were seated in a school gym, and it was just the front. So if you're looking at the stage, they took the half court on the left side, right? Was friends and family. They filled up about half court, and then there were some people kind of in the stadium or in the bleachers. By the time I got in there, when I say we, the first responders, we already filled the other entire side of the gym.
Yeah.
And there were no more chairs. And so people started moving, and then we started just filling the bleachers. And so just the look on their face as we just continued in. And I think for people from the outside that came and didn't realize what that meant for him to be a part of that community, that was quite a thing. And they... realizing that they did come from just all over the place too. It doesn't matter. There's a fallen brother. We're coming if we can.
Yeah.
In fact, they originally were going to have it in a church, and I looked up the church and I went, "Oh, I don't think they know what's coming."
Yeah.
And it wasn't long, and they said, "We're going to move this to a school."
Yeah.
So anyway, so all that being said, that then brings us back to this. What happened in, I don't even know how you say it, Coeur
d'Alene.
Thank you. Idaho.
Coeur d'Alene.
And
leave it to Steve to enunciate it properly.
He doesn't know our how to set up the email.
But he could pronounce a French name there. It's French, right? I think Coeur d'Alene.
And actually, I thought I said to Rich as we were riding back, I said, "Can you imagine what it's going to be like in Idaho?" This was somebody who passed away on the way to work. He didn't pass away in the line of duty. The funeral we went to.
Oh, right.
Imagine, here's two from two different fire departments,
and they were both battalion.
And
chiefs,
they were battalion chiefs.
Yep.
And fell in the line of duty with there's going to be people from all over. It's going to be massive showing of support. So I thought it would be good for us to talk about this just a little bit and help us process that, because that's obviously, if you are new to our podcast, which by the way, we have several new listeners, and so welcome if you're new. But really what we want to do is help you process life overall, life in emergency services, life more specifically as a firefighter, through biblical eyes. That's kind of, we do talk about other things, but the majority of the thrust is how do we live life as a firefighter as Christ would want us to. So part of that is processing this through a biblical lens. So I thought I'd just share for anybody who doesn't know. I don't actually know a lot, as in there are so many conflicting reports, and I don't want to I don't want to put out there something that's not true, and we are no news podcast. That's not what we're here for. What we can confirm for anybody, if you're listening and you don't know what we're talking about, if you're listening as a firefighter, you know exactly what we're talking about. But if you're one of those that listens, you're not a firefighter and you haven't been on the news, on Sunday, on June 29th, in, say it, Steve.
Coeur d'Alene,
Iowa. Idaho. Some firefighters were called to a wildland fire.
Right.
And we do this all the time. And we prepare ourselves for the dangers of the call, not the unforeseen evil that might be there. And if you don't know, there was a young man waiting with a hunting rifle, and he started shooting. He killed 2 battalion chiefs and injured another, I believe he's an EO, an engine operator, equipment operator. And by that time, another, I think it was a battalion chief, but another firefighter of some sort is on the radio. Go listen to it if you want. It'll give you. It's just hard to listen to, as he's on the radio calling immediately for help because they're being shot at as they're responding to this wildfire in the mountains in Idaho. They said about 300 law enforcement ended up showing up for that. I cannot imagine. I mean,
wow.
That was incredible. And one way or another, they haven't been clear. I don't know if they haven't said yet. The threat was neutralized, but unfortunately, lives were lost. Whenever something like that happens, there's often, for me, there's these things that stick out. We talked about it in our episode of when we talked about 9/11, the picture of the ladder truck going across the bridge, and just how that struck me. And I don't know if you guys noticed, but there was a video taken from an overpass of the procession as they were bringing the bodies back. And it was an incredible, again, a show of this is who we are: ambulance, police, fire trucks, everybody in there. But that scene struck me because as they're bringing back the bodies, in the background, you can still see the smoke for the fire. I noticed that immediately. Mm-hmm. And there's just this eeriness or this weird, like, as firefighters, we want to accomplish the job we went to do. And these guys didn't get to do that. Not only that, their brothers didn't get to do that.
Right.
I think it's still burning because they would have been able to stop it, but because of the delay, it spread vastly. Now others are there in their place. And just something, again, it's that they went to a call. They didn't even get to accomplish what they went to, and it's still burning. There's just an odd feeling. But what we wanted, I just put that out there. Here's the context of what our topic is. But the question then is, really, I think, as we think about this, is, and if you guys have some other areas to put into this, that's fine. But the question that I really wanted to talk through today is, well, what if I'm next? Because when that happens, that's something that you're like, man, what if that happens again, and what if it's us? What if it's me? In fact, I had a conversation with my wife, and she said that. She said, when you go to a fire and you go in the fire, I know that it's dangerous, and I know that could be, at any time we do things that could be the last thing we do. But I can use my training in my brain to say, I got to get out of here. But I cannot account for somebody who means evil against me.
Right. Well, and I think, following the line of duty, there's a sense of innocence that comes with it when you're in a structure fire, right?
Right.
You died in the line of duty of doing your job. It's entirely different when you go to respond to a fire and somebody is waiting there with ill intent.
Yeah.
That's entirely different there. It removes that sense of innocence of you were there to help.
Right.
And you fell while helping rather than you were
And in this situation, he lit the fire specifically to draw them
exactly,
in.
exactly, yeah. So yeah, I think that it takes away that innocence of it, and so I think, and I'm sorry, the reason I mentioned that is because it's, I think, easier for people to cope and reason that out of if the building collapsed or
Right.
you had smoke inhalation or whatever it is, right? You got trapped, whatever. It's easy to reason that in your mind and to come to terms with that easier than somebody taking your life while on the way to your.
I gave my life for someone else, which is what, when I signed up, I knew that was the possibility, rather than somebody just took my life and I didn't even get to do my job.
Yeah, because in this case, it was, yes, there was a threat to life and property in the sense that he lit a fire, but he set that up to ambush them.
Yeah.
Right.
And so again, it's not necessarily that they were, responding and gave their lives, and I mean, they did in the line of duty, but it wasn't for somebody else, right? It was, they, unbeknownst to them, were responding to an ambush, and that brings up all sorts of questions as to where we're at, because and I'm certainly not comparing the two because they're far, far different. But what I'm reminded of is of the Columbine school shooting, and not specifically the shooting part or the what happened around that, but more so that culture change,
the precedent that it set.
The precedent that it set afterwards. That's what this reminds me of. I feel now that change in our culture is happening yet again.
Right.
That precedence is now being set of.
Well, if you remember, this happened a few years back. There was somebody who had set their house on fire. And I don't know that it was. I don't remember that it was intentionally to draw in the first responders, but he definitely was in a place where as soon as the first responders got there, then that set off for a few months some smaller copycat type situations, and it was even in those situations it started to bring in that now we're seeing more departments where the firefighters are wearing Kevlar vests, attack vests, that kind of thing. And that was the first thing that went through my mind is like, great, what did this start? And we know that our society is in a much worse place. So it only makes sense that this is going to start something.
How long until and I'm giving people an idea, so if you want to make money on this, go ahead. How long until we see tack vests that are compatible with SCBAs where it's just attached to it?
Yeah.
Can you imagine?
And I say this that was tongue in cheek about making money on it. I say this because my point is how close are we to this now, this type of call, this type of ambush becoming the norm to where that's going to be necessary. As if, turnout gear in your pack and all that stuff isn't heavy enough to have to throw a tack vest on it, or
will the police have to arrive first at every call?
Yeah, exactly. So
but when I was at the department that I used to work for, they started talking about arming guys, that was the talk of actually arming guys, because here, unfortunately, these guys are trying to go in just to save a life, and now you have unexpected consequences of entering someone's home with a life that is needing to be saved.
Right.
When you don't have no idea what's around the corner, or they were talking about either arming the guys or actually having a law enforcement person go on the call with them and go inside with them to protect.
So then that brings up the question, well, look at, public safety departments. We're not too far from a public safety department. Where we're at right now, we're like northwest of them. Where
half hour-ish.
It's police, fire, and EMS all in one department. So if you don't know what the public safety is, that's what it is. Where the firefighters are the police officers are the paramedics, and the paramedics are the fire. You know what I mean? Everybody does everything. They're cross-trained. At least some departments are that way. And so how long until that becomes every police and fire agency now merge, and now it's for full time.
Or fire departments just start hiring their own certified police officers, that are rolling in a fire type of car, but they're armed.
Certainly.
And
I went through fire academy with a guy that I became pretty good friends with. He was he had just gone through police academy, so he could start working as a police officer on a public safety department. And now he was getting his fire credentials, so he could start responding to fires as well. And yeah, that was what they were doing. They were hiring police first, and then getting them into fire, and then getting them medically certified.
Right.
So
that's a whole nother topic that would actually be a good one to talk about, but I don't want to go down that road.
Oh, yeah.
That's not what you meant, but yeah. Because I know that as some people are listening to this, if they're hearing that, they're having all kinds of questions, which are legitimate.
Probably. Yeah. Sorry, I'm not trying to open a can of
worms. No. And we're not going to go down that road. So, lost my train of thought. So this then begs this question, I think, as we think about this, and because I think I'm not a guy, we're not here to try to make people start thinking like, oh no, this is like, we're not trying to be a fear monger type of thing.
No, not at all. We're not trying to say that this is an epidemic.
But the fear is real, right? And so the question is, does this cause me to quit?
Well, again, going back to 2020 and all of the riots and everything happening, I know a lot of police officers who quit over that.
Yeah.
Some of them were volunteer. They were not being paid. They were just essentially deputized. They went through police academy. They became deputized and became a volunteer police officer, which I can understand. They're not getting paid for it. They're just, they're serving their community for free. They've paid for everything themselves.
Right.
And it was getting real out there. And so I can see that.
Well, what I get paid, you could say maybe pays for my gas.
Yeah, you basically do it for free too. So, but do you quit? I don't know. I mean, I think that's up to the individual person where they're at in their walk with Christ and their relationship with their family. And if it's me, no. But I knew what I signed up for too.
Let's talk about that. You hit it, Jake. This is where we're going to go. I'm not quitting because of this.
Right. Yeah, you can't let evil win. You can't you can't let when you signed up for the job itself, you signed up to face that danger, to be resilient. Roasted for the resilient. Sorry, I just had to point out that
that's right.
Link.
You quit, you can't drink red flannel coffee.
If you quit, you can't drink red flannel coffee. We'll flag you on our website.
We'll find you.
But no, you can't let evil win. You can't let the danger win.
Right. Oh. So this is why we're talking about this, because for me, because it is very real. This puts this very real thing in my mind that, this is a new, that was loud.
Yeah, sorry.
This is a new thing. Not necessarily new. I've been in some situations. We had one night a few years back that there was a string of arsons, and often you don't know that it's arsons, but because of what was happening,
right.
When it was toned out, we were told this is probably an arson because across like two areas, us and our neighboring department, there was, I don't remember if it was 3 or 4 fires going on, and you knew they were arson. And so when we showed up the middle of the night, out in the middle of nowhere, the police hadn't gotten there yet. And that was very much a I'm looking over my shoulder kind of thing. So I've been there in that moment, and we were told, like, hey, look out for each other, head on a swivel, but we've got a job to do, right? We're going to go do our job.
Yeah.
But the fear is real. So how do I process that? Well, Psalm 56:3, when I'm afraid, I put my trust in you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I have to put my trust in the Lord. One of the things I have hanging, it's been hanging for years now. Somebody gave it to me, or maybe I bought it. I don't remember. It's a dog tag, and it has Joshua 1:9 on it on one side, and it has on the other side, it has a Maltese cross. And I don't wear that kind of stuff, but I hung it on my rearview mirror, and it just hangs in my car. And it's a reminder every time I go to a call. Have I not commanded you? Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid. Do not be dismayed, for the Lord your God is with you wherever you go.
Yeah.
And I have to remember that. I see passages like, if you walk through the fire, you will not be burned. That's out of context. That's not what we're talking about.
You got to love those.
That frustrates me.
Speaking of Joshua, or was it Joshua? No, Isaiah, send me.
Yeah.
And it was like, well, what's that context? Because I know, again, people in law enforcement that use that,
Right. But here's one. This is maybe one of the verses that would be like the, and some people might kind of struggle with this idea, but this is a verse. This verse actually helps me as well when we respond to a young person that has passed away. But this applies here and is really kind of that anchor verse for me. Psalm 139:16. David says, "Your eyes saw my unformed substance. In your book were written, every one of them, the days that were formed for me, when as yet there was none of them." Before I even took my first breath, God said, here's the days you're going to live. He knows exactly how and when I'm going to take my last breath.
Yeah.
Nothing's going to change that. That doesn't mean I'm going to be stupid, but nothing's going to change that.
Right. Well,
So I trust him.
We spoke about that before on one of our episodes where
Our camera already got too hot. It's hotter than
It's pretty
crazy
warm
up
here,
Yeah.
yeah, we talked about that when I lost my train of thought.
You said some episodes ago we talked about that.
What did we talk about? Now I forgot what we were talking about. Sorry.
We're talking about our days are numbered.
Oh, our days
are numbered, yeah.
Oh, when somebody says like, "Oh, they were taken too soon."
Yes.
It's like, well,
Yep.
who's to say that? I mean,
right.
you know, God already wrote their number in the book.
Yes.
That's not for us to say that they were taken. Is it sad for us? 100%.
Yes.
Tragic for us? 100%. It's never
Might not even
easy.
make sense
Yeah,
why
it might
God
not make
allowed,
sense. Right.
say, a baby to live a day, an hour,
Yeah.
but that was exactly the amount of time written,
Yeah.
and we
exactly.
trust that.
Yes.
And so I have to do the same thing. If I believe that I'm doing the thing that God has laid out for my life, and I
Right.
do believe that it is,
yeah.
then I trust him. And if that's the way he chooses to take me out of this world, it's not going to be fun for my family, but they're going to trust him too.
Yeah. Yeah. It's never easy. That, you know, I've been through that. That was my son. He lived for an hour and then passed away. And that was, you know, but you have to trust that was God's plan the whole time.
Right.
So
It doesn't make it hurt less, and it doesn't
certainly
even
not.
make it make sense all the time.
Right.
But it's that trust. God, I don't understand why you gave him an hour. God, I don't understand why it was your appointed thing that, you know, that if that was the way I die, I don't understand that.
Right.
But I trust he's doing something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so we keep going. We can't let fear is okay, but we can't let it win. Right? Like, we're going to be afraid at times.
Yeah.
But the scripture also says that fear doesn't come from God.
That's right. Faith over fear.
No, don't say that.
You love that saying. You love those sayings. Come on.
So anyway,
I don't know. I don't know if you remember. We, again, going back several months. That was one of the sayings that you said that you didn't like.
yeah.
We had like a list of them. So
Yep.
I keep a list of things that annoy you, and
After last week's episode,
yeah.
Jake had so much fun. He's trying to poke buttons.
oh yeah, I was like, well, we're gonna bring other things up now.
That's all right.
We had to have like one a month.
Hey, we had a good laugh after we turned the
Oh,
camera
we
off
did.
last
Oh,
time.
we did. That
had
was
a
so
good
fun.
time. That was fun.
That was great.
So, anyways, that's really all I had. Just kind of wanted to share our heart a little bit and hit on that, and hopefully that helps a little bit. Let us know. Drop it in the comments. Let us know how you're working through this. Maybe you're somebody who said, "Nope, that's it. I'm done. I'm out." We would never fault you for making that decision, but let me encourage you not to quit just because of fear as well. Because if you really believe you're doing what God has for you, then we have to trust him.
Sure.
And that never promises that he's going to protect us physically. But I also can do this because my eternity is sure. If he
Right.
takes me out, I know where I'm going to be. You know, and that happens in anything. I might not make it home tonight because somebody runs a red light and hits me. I don't know. We can't live in that fear.
Right.
That's why we have to know what our eternity is. We have to have that relationship with God. We have to have our sins forgiven so that when we take our last breath, we stand before him as one of his children.
Yeah.
And some of these things that, you know, like you're seeing what happened in Idaho. I mean, you remember when we had years ago, we had the father-son duo that was going on and were shooting out of the back of the thing. And they were getting shoppers. Remember, they were doing from sniping.
Yeah.
I mean, same thing. Sniping people in positions where they were just very vulnerable. They're going to the store to go pick up something at the store, and they're going out to the parking lot, and they got killed in the parking lot. So, it's like you're saying, if we live, we can be like the boy in the bubble and just live and never leave the house. And you see, unfortunately. And you probably saw it, through COVID a little bit, where people were afraid to do anything because we're so afraid of getting sick and passing away. And it's like, well, again, when you know where your eternity's at, like you were saying, is that we don't have to worry about it. If COVID was going to get me, COVID was going to get me. What am I going to do? And so like you're saying, you look at all that life that's wasted being fearful all the time. When in all reality, what they say the percentages, when you fear I was just talking to someone about this the other day, that what is it when you worry, and you fear and you worry, and they say that of 100% of the things you worry about, like 95% of them never come to fruition or something like that.
I think we talked about it. Oh, maybe it was on my YouTube channel that I talked about this. I heard somebody define fear this way with the acrostic FEAR, false evidence appearing real. That's what, that's what fear usually is. It's something. It's not even something that's going to happen. Our mind works it up into that, and that's why I say with this, is it real? Well, yeah. There should be there's a part of the reality. We know that something like this can happen anywhere.
Yeah,
sure.
As a pastor, I think about that with the church shootings and things. It can happen anywhere. And there are things that we do in our church to take some precautions. But ultimately, we have to trust God. Mm-hmm. We can't, and it's not like I come to church every Sunday thinking about that either.
Right.
There have been a couple of times where, with what's been happening, what happened in the culture a few years back, just some specific times, where I said to some of our guys, hey, we probably need to be a little bit more on alert this Sunday. Mm-hmm. But otherwise, and it didn't stop people from coming to church. We just were like, hey, we need to be a little more ready for this.
That'll be another episode.
Yeah. Well,
security in the church.
Yeah. Well,
it goes right along with our firefighting podcast.
Yeah. I think it's something that just come to mind talking about that is, remember that Satan wants us to be feared, and the enemy wants us to live in fear, right? Because like you're saying, if you're afraid to come to church, well, then now the gathering is not coming together to worship our Lord together. And that's exactly what he wants. Right. So understand that a lot of this fear some of it comes from the enemy as well.
Yeah.
To live in that bubble of, I never want to do anything. I don't want to gather. I don't want to meet with anybody. I'm afraid to leave the house. And, and that's no way to live. And then what you're going to find is, you live for years and you find, what a wasted life of living in fear every day for what? For something that never ended up happening, And so, I don't know. But it's a to each his own. I definitely don't want to, like you were saying, if someone, just decided that, hey, man, this job's getting a little bit too dangerous for me, and, definitely don't want to make people feel bad for doing that, because that's to each his own. And I know even like, you're talking about what you sign up for, like even when I did my previous job, when I was doing equipment stuff, I wasn't, the health aspect wasn't something you thought about. You're worried about something blowing up in your face, breathing air cylinder or something. That was what you were afraid of. And, I ended up getting sick from doing a job. And it's like, well, this wasn't, you're right. I could maybe do this and never have a problem, but is that a risk I'm really willing to take? I'm like, well, for me, no. For me, it wasn't worth it to me, but that was me. Someone else would see it differently. Right. So it's, we definitely don't want to downplay it for anybody that does make those decisions though too.
No.
So,
just don't don't be seen drinking the coffee anymore. At least don't
That's
put
all I'm
it.
saying,
Just don't put it. Well, Jake is perfectly happy if you buy it. Just don't put it in a red flannel cup. So
I mean,
knows,
don't let people see what you're drinking if you're a quitter.
And we say that, but I'm always quick to say, to be on a serious note, Jake does not pocket any money from red flannel coffee.
No.
That goes to his the nonprofit that he's involved with, or it helps. And we don't pocket any of the money. It just helps with some of the upgrades to what we
say. It pays
do
for some
here.
Well, not necessarily that, but equipment in general.
Yeah,
the chairs, the tables,
just
all
some
that
little
stuff.
things.
Deputy dog.
No, I paid for deputy dog. Deputy dog was like a Goodwill find for a different thing I had going. But anyways,
It was a different podcast. Where
yeah.
it was just all stuffed animals, and they all had
They just sit around.
one was the pastor, and the rest were the church.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. He's for Rich's podcast. So anyways, hey, we hope that you come back next week, because if you were here last week for our lively conversation,
spirited conversation
on rest.
Yeah.
And we said, Jake and I both said, absolutely not, because Steve kept trying to say, well, we'll cover this
part
next
two.
week. Part two.
Yeah.
We're like, no way.
We don't need a part two.
I don't.
And then-
perfectly content sitting
then
here arguing.
I got home. I probably was home 10 minutes. I sat down. I flipped open my phone, and there was a video, and I was like, oh, we got to have a part two. So,
Yes.
I don't expect it to be quite as lively as the last one.
Man,
but
that was- I thought that was
I guess it depends on how committed you are.
next week. I'm not committed this week.
Oh man,
I thought it was gonna be like a 2-hour podcast. Like we just kept going and going. I'm like, man, we
yeah.
wanted to.
that wasn't. It wasn't that bad. It was like 47 minutes or something like that. I don't
No,
know.
it was a little over 50.
Was it a little over 50?
Yeah, it
Okay.
kept going. I thought, man,
I
we
guess
can-
I stopped
we can
looking
save
at
for-
it. Stopped counting at 47.
Jake and I were more worried about getting whatever point we thought we wanted. I don't even remember
it was
what it was.
great.
I don't
even
know.
remember, but it was just the fun
I get
of
on
it.
a subject and I'll argue. I don't care if I'm wrong. I'm just going to keep
Yeah.
arguing.
Yeah.
I like to argue, and I'm sorry.
Well, that's
just-
my mom
But
texts
I'm
me,
not
and she's
really
like,
sorry.
"You're so much like your father. You can play the devil's advocate, great, very convincing."
And you know what you did? You said, "No, I'm not." You just started an argument with your mom. You know she's right. You're like, "I'm nothing like Dad."
Exactly. Oh, here we go. Here's another argument.
That's when the argument started. So,
All right.
Well, hey, there's no argument here. You ought to go to redflannelcoffeeco.com and buy stuff.
Nice.
You know what?
Simple and easy.
You know what? I started off strong and lost steam there at the end. I was like, I'll buy stuff.
Buy stuff
Yeah.
because
Good enough.
because you can enjoy great coffee, but the money you spend puts AEDs in schools and
That's right.
other nonprofits.
That's right. Yeah, and it helps out the community, helps out the podcast. It's all
Oh, man.
it's all good stuff. So-
Yeah.
And then now that you're feeling so good about making a great purchase over at Red Flannel Coffee Company, what you also can do is come over to our email page
You know what, Steve? I disagree.
Email page.
or email.
I'm
or
going to argue
email-
with you about it.
Yeah, ffifpodcast@gmail.com, and drop some stuff in there, and let us know what you're.
Drop some stuff in there like viruses, malware, phishing attempts, whatever you want. You drop whatever you want. I
It's
mean,
on Steve's computer, so we don't care.
Yeah,
Steve
I don't
likes
have
to read
access
it.
to this.
Hey, well, you're going to find out, in one of our future episodes that we have someone that keeps, Courtney keeps writing, and she's got some great ideas. So
Little did you guys know, Courtney's our producer.
She's gonna be. She keeps giving us some
Or
great
else I
topics.
remember
we're going to give her a
episodes,
job. Courtney,
So-
you're hired.
We got another one of hers coming up this month.
Yes,
too.
we do.
Yeah,
Yes,
we
we do.
do.
But yeah, make sure to come over to ffifpodcast@gmail.com. And like I said, you have any show ideas, Courtney? And you have anything you want to talk about, prayers, whatever like that, let us know so we can pray for you. And we just thank you so much for joining us for another week. And yeah, we'll look to next week for part 2, right?
Part two. Yeah.
You know what
it
I
might
really
not
want?
it might not be what you think. I think it's gonna be a good one.
I want our friend from South Africa that wrote in the one time to come up with
yes,
a
please.
for us.
he's got to bring him back.
Yes.
Wherever you are, man, we're still waiting on you.
Yeah.
Dude, you know what?
I'll still send you stuff.
I was gonna say we even still send him some coffee or something.
Oh, well,
I don't know that he needs coffee in South Africa.
well
I mean,
yeah, you never know, though. Maybe the
He
coffee
can get
inside-
he can get some pretty good coffee in South Africa. I would send it to him if you wanted it, but I was thinking some swag, some hats.
Oh, yeah.
or,
Yeah,
you know,
sticker.
stickers.
Absolutely, dude.
Yes.
We get
So
FFIF
malware, viruses on his computer, whatever. Drop whatever
works.
you want in that email.
Steve's gonna have plenty to send around.
All of a sudden, next week, I'm like, guys, the email's blowing up. I'm getting all kinds of weird stuff.
Steve's
in
gonna
there.
get an email saying that a prince in Africa has
was just gonna say
$1 million for him. You just got to click this link to accept it.
I got
Steve's gonna be like, oh man, whole new podcast studio, man.
It's a guy with a business proposal. Now he's like, I have a money I have to give away. And
All right, we gotta land this plane.
Oh man.
all right. Well, remember too, go over to wherever you enjoy your favorite. When you enjoy our podcast, go over to your favorite. your favorite. I can't.
Boy,
He always says that.
I
we're
always
not-
do that. I
if
always
we're
do
not
that.
their favorite,
You derailed that plane
he
and
just
sank it.
readily accepts that we're not anybody's favorite podcast.
No, you come watch. Come watch. Come watch.
so
it.
true.
Just
He just knows that.
on your favorite platform is what I meant to say. So find your favorite podcast platform to watch
There you
us.
go.
Also, there we go. That's what I was trying
That's
to say.
what you got to start with.
I'm sorry.
Just say wherever you listen to your podcast, find us.
I'm trying to get cute here, and it's like it's just going off the rails. I can't. I need the cue card is what I need to do this. But whatever you find, wherever you listen to Faith, Fortune, Fire, and your favorite media, your podcast media, right? Medium. Is that what they call it?
Medium. Those are two different things.
Dude, we're running out of gas.
We're running out of gas.
Plane.
All right, let's play on the plane. We'll see you guys next week.
Later. Wow. What a train wreck.